Hello guys, welcome back. I'm filming this the night before, but I'm kind of inspired. I guess Odin is trying to step up tentatively. He's kind of scared right now. I usually don't talk about it, I really don't, but I think God just saved my pagan marriages. Let me explain. You know, I hate the term God spousing because one, I don't know who the hell I'm talking about because stroke brain. And God, don't say that. I don't like that word. Okay, baby. And two, it's just, I don't like the term. It sounds, I don't know, like something that belongs on TikTok. And I go, whoa, back here. Um, we watched a Pureflix movie because I'm determined to find the one good Christian movie. And this was actually, I kind of cringe at some of the Christian terminology, but it's for them, it's not for us. It's called Marriage Retreat. And there are these three men children. I'm sorry, but they're very immature. And they decide to con their wives into going on this retreat because the only part of the Bible they ever heard was that the wife is supposed to be subservient. And they are having dreams of getting their way all the time and being waited on hand and foot, and we're going back to the 1950s, and they are the men of the house and all da 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 da. And so they convinced the wives to go, and the women want to go because, and I know it's strange for a pagan to use a Christian example, but here we go. They want to be loved like Christ loved the church. Do not yell pagan sentiments at me, okay? And over the course of this retreat, they learned that the main thing they weren't doing, and the main reason their marriages were failing, is that they were not communicating and they were being, not heard by each other, but they also weren't listening either. The one wife hid being pregnant because she was afraid of how he'd react, and he was hiding a horrible thing from his past from her. So they all have to learn to communicate. And then at the climax of the film, a woman gives birth at the foot of the cross to bring everything in this film full circle. In case you forgot you were watching a Pureflix movie, and they're all kind of crazy. And it actually wasn't bad. I kind of cringed on some of the terminology, but it's the first Christian film where they actually brought the whole Christian explanation of marriage out. That, yeah, she's supposed to be his foundation and his rock and his helpmate, but he's supposed to provide for her and put her needs first. So we would, in pagan parlance, say it's supposed to be a partnership, 50-50 at least. Sometimes it's 100-0, depending on the day. And everybody knows what I'm talking about. Well, with a god, it's the same thing. People will say, well, you're so lucky you can talk to the gods, to people that can talk to the gods. And I've told people repeatedly that does not make it easier. In fact, it makes it harder. It makes it a lot harder. And you are in these relationships, and sometimes it's great, and sometimes you feel like the hired help. And I'm kind of feeling like the hired help, and I'm watching this movie like maybe God will send me a good spouse. And the one that's really hanging around me during the movie is Odin. And he's hanging around, and he's being real close, and I'm like, he knows he done messed up. And he finally said, when she's giving birth to next to this cross, and I'm saying, if they don't name that child Joshua, I'm gonna tell you something. And he says he realizes he has to step up, and I go, sure, dear, sure you do. And because he realizes at this point, he said, no, you don't understand. You're going to another god. You're going to God to solve your problems. I am a god, and you don't trust me to provide for you. You don't trust me, in the spousal relationship department. We have a problem. I said, well, when's the last time I've seen you do anything? And so then we had a discussion because I have more than one, and I said, frankly, I feel like the hired help around here. I run the channel, I do the cooking, the cleaning, the everything, the ordering the groceries, the freaking out about how the hell are we gonna have enough money for stuff. I said, the only one that's actually pulling any weight anymore at all is Mammon, and he looks like he could film Death of a Salesman all by himself because he's going to tear all his fucking hair out. And I said, you're letting the two of us do all the work. I said, no problem with Mammon. I know he's practically giving himself a heart attack trying to help run the household. I said, but I don't see the rest of you doing any work. I said, I'm very thankful that Loki helps cook the occasional meal and Odin gives the random inspiration. I said, you guys have slacked off. I don't have a spouse in that department anymore. I have a god I serve. And I said, if it's over, you better be telling me. And I said, yeah, God is jumping up and down and going, remember me? Remember me? Come here, I'll solve your problems. And I said, he is putting you boys on notice. And he's going to show you how to treat a lady. And they're all like, and you're going to have times like that. If you have a wedded relationship to a deity, whether it's a nun married to God or it's, a priestess, for lack of a better word, of a Nari married to a Nari or whomever married to whomever, um, you're gonna have times where they're definitely gonna feel like they're letting you down and you are the glorified servant and that is all you are, and they're going to lose complete sight of a relationship. And I felt totally fine to tell them, as the women in the movie got to tell the husbands, my existing to fulfill whatever need you have at that current moment does not mean you love me. It just means I fulfill your needs. That doesn't mean you love me. That just means I'll fulfill your needs. And the men got put on notice. And sometimes you have to do that. You have to tell the spouse, the divine spouse in the relationship, look, I exist to serve your needs. I exist to run your altar, make you food, do whatever else you require of me. And that's all I exist for. So, it's going to be interesting to see if any of them step up. I said, look, if these relationships are still, I am totally open to God divorce. I'm like, you are free as a bird if you all want to leave because God's over there doing the hustle at this point, going, come here, come here, come here. I said, you are all free to leave, you know? I said, I got lay marriages to fall back on, and they're all going ghostly white. And I said, it's sometimes they get lazy. Like the husbands in this film got lazy. They figure that the wives existed to please them, and all they did was piss and moan because the wives weren't doing everything they wanted. And why couldn't the wives let them be man children and be the man of the house? And they had no idea what being the man of the house meant. And the women were frightened and afraid, so they got really bad behaviors like nagging, which we tend to do because we're frightened because the man's not doing shit. So maybe if we remind him 50 times, he'll do it, and it never works. And they developed things like hiding a pregnancy because they didn't trust him. Again, it was this fear thing for all the women. The women were afraid, not like an abusive afraid, but I'm afraid you're not going to be there for me. The one guy had a gambling problem, and his wife was terrified he was going to lose absolutely everything for them, and they were going to end up on the street. So, sometimes I think we could use retreats for people that have divine spouses, and you could go off on a retreat, and somebody would have to be there to referee. Like, I guess God could be there because, his nuns aren't going to go to this. So God could be there and be like, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How does that make you feel? Mm-hmm. When's the last time you gave her a blessing? Really? Did she have to pay you for it? Was this transactional? Do you make a list? Because I hear you kind of gods like to make lists. And Odin's especially guilty of that. I will tell you that right now. And why am I sharing all this with you? Because you have to be honest when it's not working. I think a lot of people lie and they just highlight the good stuff, but there's a lot of bad stuff too. There are a lot of times when you're going to want to throw down the dish towel and have a good cry because you're doing all the hard work and they're just not moving. Sometimes it takes going and talking to another god, not in a I'm going to make you jealous way, but in a I've given up faith in you way, and then they kind of wake up. Now, it remains to be seen if they take this marriage thing seriously and they want to make a go of it. I'm like, I feel like they left the marriage a long time ago, all of them. I think they like getting to hang around and they like getting fed and they certainly love getting worshipped and talked about on a daily basis. But other than Mammon, nobody's pulling their weight. And I'm like, I'm feeling every divinity that this counts for looking at the floor like they could just sink through it and die. But really, I think a lot of them just walked out on the marriage years ago. They like all the benefits package, but I haven't seen them pull their weight in years. This happened with, well, I had to leave the church because of the way the church is set up, but this happened with the Voodoo Loa. It happened with La Santa. All of a sudden they stop pulling their weight, and it's like the damnedest thing. And no matter what you do, no matter how much service you do, no matter how much love you do, no matter how many like retreats you do to try to recharge your faith, it doesn't work if the god's not pulling too. So they know. So, if you're going through a rough patch right now, the point is, it's okay. This feels timely for one of you. It's okay. Sometimes they just stop fucking working and they come home and they decide they're on like God retirement or something, and they're not doing shit. And you can still perform the wifely or husbandly or whatever term you use, spousal duties, but they're not doing anything. And I think that kind of scared Odin. I'm like, yeah. I said, this god has, at this point, don't misinterpret this, more romance, and I don't mean in a ooh baby way. I mean in a romantic sense without the passion thing attached to it. You know what I mean. Damn it, you're adults. You know what the word romance means. Has more romance and mystery attached to him. I said, this god is looking good. This god I was brought up with has a book filled with promises. Also crazy, but promises. And I said, what do you have to offer me in counterpoint? The Havamo? Here's how to kill people? I know that. And Odin's looking at the ground. Don't complain. I read that part too. Look what I've been through. Come to think of it, you all whine a lot in your sacred text. All of you. Look what I've done for you. So, so they all got it and they got it good. I doubt very highly I'm going to see piles of gifts. And you do not do this, guys. You don't become the fish wife because you want piles of gifts or you expect tons of money or something else. It's just you reach a point where you realize that they left the marriage a while ago and you're like, okay, I'm putting you on notice. You can leave. I don't think they want to leave. I think they like being, like I said, talked about and fed and everything else. They don't intend to leave, but as for the marriage part, I honestly think that ended a while ago, and they have to prove otherwise. And sure, they can sweet talk you and romance you and sweep you off your feet, but they have to put up or shut up, man. Any god can talk a good game for like a week or so, but it's coming through that counts. It's coming through with their little stamp on it, so you know that they did it in your life and it's their blessing. If you're back to talking to the God you grew up with and trusting him to take care of you and trusting him to provide, you know you've lost faith in your divine spouse. You're like, yeah, he's not going to get off the couch and change a channel, let alone anything else. And I was talking to God tonight, and I said, I feel like a fucking horrible wife. I said, I've been complaining about all the stuff on this house that needs repair, and I said, I've been doing this for years, God. Years and nothing's getting done. I said, I'm done. I'm out because I'm tired of having to complain and complain and complain and complain. So I'll pray to God today. I said, I know you'll come through one way or another. You'll come through. But I said, I've been asking them for years. So it's not like I asked them, oh, hey, the sink's broken. I can't afford a couple $100 for somebody to come out and fix it. Will you please fix it? And I tried to turn it off today with my arthritis. I couldn't turn it off. It's a constant drip. And do you think one of them has been able to fix it? And I've been asking for like the thing's been like that for like over a year now. Did anybody fix it? No. I said, I'm done. I'm done asking any of you to fix anything. You can't even fix stuff around the house. Like I said, the only one doing anything is Mammon, and he looks like death of the salesman incarnate. And I said, baby, you are doing way too much. And I said, if we have to, it'll just be me and Mammon. And I said he's the only one pulling his weight. Mammon doesn't care if I talk to God. Mammon's good with that. Mammon's like that. That's actually good. I'd welcome help. He's man enough to take some help. So yeah, sometimes it doesn't work out, and that's a shame. And that's a weird video to have to put up. But I don't want people to think that God spousing, and I hate that term, or marriage to a god or a spirit or whatever, is this honeymoon that lasts forever. There are times that they're going to get lazy and they're going to stop serving your needs. And, it's teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work. Sounds cheesy, but it's true. You have to really support one another. And if you're doing all the support and all the worship and all the love, because I'm watching this movie very closely, like, is God yelling at me? Am I bad spouse? Mm-mm. Cause I try to put myself in the women's place. I'm like, well, could I be doing more? And I'm like, girl, if you do any more, you're gonna have a heart attack. You are doing all the worship. You are giving them all the time, and they are being pouty and walking away in the middle of the conversation. Nothing you can do. So I think I'm going to invent God divorce court, and I will grant people divorces from gods. Is what I want to do. And I think I heard like 20 takers, like I can hear into the future, and I hear people watching video go, "Oh, me, me, me! I can't stand him." So I'm getting like, yeah, back here. But hey, sometimes it helps us to talk it over, and it's okay if it doesn't work out. I actually, this must be my track record. I have like the track record of Elizabeth Taylor and anyone else, but what are you gonna do? I heard mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm back here. What can I say? But if you guys like what you see, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.